Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmitty, Swanee and Clarky visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right. Good to see you both again. How are we?
Very well, thank you.
Good,
Yeah,
good.
it's very well too. Lovely to see you both.
How's everyone's week been?
Good. I'm just enjoying the bird song.
Who's got a little tweetering bird?
Clarky, I'd say.
Oh, sorry, it's me again. There's literally a bazillion birds in that bush, and they all thanks.
Podcasting live from his aviary.
Yeah, exactly right. Which is like a farm with no
Birdman.
cages. I'm not a fan of aviaries, but I do like the birds.
Well, my week's been fine. I did some work. I had to stay off. We took the houseboat out, took all day, and Billy's now checking it out, but we think there's 3 pontoon sections that may have taken water on. So no wonder she was looking a bit low in the water, but she's out and we'll fix her up and we'll put her back in 2 weeks' time. Yep. The life of a boatie. I said to him at one point, I said, look at that beautiful white elephant over there that just sucks all my money away. Isn't she lovely? What about you two?
The life of a boatie. It's all fixing boats and drinking rum, isn't it?
All maintenance and pirate juice. Absolutely right, Paul. Absolutely.
Har
me hearties. That's right, 100%. And I will, when we get to the drinking bit, talk about the fact that I am on a cruiser, I'll do it now, on a cruiser, as in one of my faves, and I will be switching to pirate juice. Just let you know.
So you're on a little holiday there,
Very
Schmitty.
good.
Oh, well, that's a day off, you know.
Holiday mode, yeah.
Yeah, and it's warm, and why not, hey? And you two? News and drinking?
I'm going to be very dull and say I have no news and I'm not drinking because for me, unlike you, it's the middle of a mum day. I'm in between school drop-off, school pick-up, yada, yada. No one wants to hear it. Clarky, yourself, darling?
One of these days we have to do a recording at midnight our time and 7 p.m. your time so you can get lathered. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
so probably maybe just after one of my boozy
Let's do
lunches.
Yeah.
Where I've been pre-gaming.
Oh, that would work.
Yeah, it is a bit tricky.
'Cause
3 hours is a
if we
big
did
difference,
it at
isn't it?
midnight, Yeah, it is. If we did it at midnight, we would probably already be sozzled, Schmitty.
You pair for sure.
Well,
you'd be working your way through your hangover.
Yeah, true.
You're
right.
That's right.
Sweating
I don't
probably
make
in
it
a
to midnight
weird sort of
sober.
fitful dream, but yeah, I'm not sure that it'd be.
I had one of those last
Decently.
night. I had one of
Really?
those. Yeah. So I was at the house at Ilden, our holiday house, and
Yep.
I had a few drinks in the evening because my sister rang and she wants to talk about picking and pressing wine, and she was all excited. And then my brother showed up and we had the fire going, and so we were drinking outside, and I had a few glasses of bubbles. We watched, this became a tradition. It sounds so boring, but this became a tradition when we were doing the houseboat project, which was meant to be 6 months and went for 2 years because of COVID. But we watch Great British Bake Off. So we've got this sort of thing where neither of us will catch up on it or do anything about it. It's this tradition of my brother and I watching people make things or bake things. Anyway, so we watched an episode of that. I went to bed and that was fine. Then at some point in the night, I woke up and I didn't know where I was, and I stood up and it was pitch black in the room, apart from a little bit of light coming through the window. But because I didn't know where I was, I thought I'd gone blind in one eye because there's a bunk,
one light.
Yeah, there's a bunk bed next to me. So it was obviously whatever the little bit of light that was in the room, the bunk bed was blocking the light. So when I turned my head, it's like, oh no, I've gone blind. And and I thought, I don't know where I am. And so then I ended up lying on the bed up like the wrong way round. So my head was where the feet were. I didn't know. I woke up this morning and thought, oh, no wonder I'm in the different house. But I was completely lost last night. Anyway, I made it out okay on the other end.
Oh, you survived.
What about you, Clarky?
And
Do
now
you
you're
have any
found
news?
again?
I'm found. I'm good. Yeah.
Well, I have got a little bit of news. So I think as most of our listeners would know, and you two would definitely know, during COVID, we started drinking more than what we normally would. And, we went pretty hard before COVID, but we started drinking most weeknights as well. And sometimes when I say, started drinking most weeknights, there were times where I woke up the next morning and went, God, 4 bottles? Are you kidding? Between the two of us. So, it was pretty bad. Anyway, we had an opportunity over the last week and a half to stop drinking. And so I thought, let's try to eat healthy at the same time. So when I say stop drinking, we had 3 drinks during the week last week, which, for me is none compared to what we were doing. Had a little bit on the weekend, but not much. And now tonight. But in that week and a half, I've lost 3 kilos.
Oh, shut up.
Eating healthy.
I don't get this. This is so unfair.
It's all right. There's
I
only
hate
so
this
much.
story.
There's
And
only so
4
much
for me.
fat in the world, and in the week
Sorry.
there's only so much fat in the world. It's a balance thing, right? So if everyone lost weight, then the planet would float away, right? Gravity couldn't cope. So the natural world order is that when someone like Clarky loses 3 kilos, it gets transferred to someone else. And I'm pretty confident I'm now carrying it. So you're welcome.
I just find it so unfair.
I am a big believer in that.
That when people
Really?
stop drinking,
How
they
come?
lose weight. It's like, that would never happen to me. It's never happened.
But it was also healthy eating and exercise. So,
But I do that every week.
but see, if you're not changing anything, you're not going to lose weight.
Yeah. It's the radical
It's
shift.
not the,
Well, seeing as I
Okay,
hardly
it's the
drink, I
drinking.
just have to stop eating. Yes.
Poor
It's
Carla.
genetics.
yes,
It's
that's
genetics.
going to be hard.
You've seen my mother. You know the road I'm on. Anyway.
I
All
don't know if
right.
it's appropriate you haven't seen mine, but I'm adopted and I've seen my natural.
Oh, right. Yes.
And there's some issues there, shall we say?
Okay.
With morbid obesity, but anyway, on we shall go. Sorry that I didn't give you the response. But well done, Clarky. I'm happy for you, but very jealous at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm not a good person.
Yes, well, I'm so.
Yes, you are.
You are a great person.
No,
You are.
I'm green with envy.
Yes.
All right. So you are not drinking, or you are today?
No, definitely drinking. Yeah. So I wouldn't not drink with you lot.
Couldn't do it. That's
So
right.
we're having a Langhorne Creek Stalking Horse Pinot Grigio.
Delicious.
Which is one of the ones that I got off Grey's Online. It's a nice little quaffing wine.
Lovely.
Not up there with my faves, but certainly does the job.
Oh, you've just reminded me. We had dinner with some friends the other night, and they explained how off Grey's Online, which is that online auction site. Is that what you're referring to, Clarky? Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
The guy had bought a case or more, probably several cases, of a champagne which was called, I'm going to get it wrong, but it was a take on Veuve Clicquot, and it was, let's say it was Veuve Miko. I can't remember, right? But it turned up and it was apparently so bad that he didn't give it to his sister. It was so bad. She actually gave it back and said, thank you very much, but I'm not going to do this. I couldn't possibly serve it. So she gave it back to him. So we're going to a dog's birthday party, their dog's birthday in a couple of weeks. And we're going to use it for some champagne showers, but the old Veuve Miko or whatever it is, because it's some fake Veuve Clicquot.
It's like an Aldi naming convention.
Yeah, something like that. Oh my God. I couldn't quite get my head around it, but yeah. So I don't know if you've seen Emily in Paris. No? Have either of you seen Emily in Paris?
Oh, yes. Only season 1, though, so don't ruin season 2 for me.
You'll need to see season 2.
Right.
They have a dedicated champagne in it for champagne showers and stuff. So anyway,
Okay.
I'm gonna give it
Oh,
a
yeah. Well, she sort of started that
Champagne,
idea.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they
you
make
remind
quite
me.
a
It's
lot
been
of deal
ages
with it.
since I saw it. Yeah. Sorry.
As memorable as it is, yes.
I liked it. Anyway. Clarky, you're going to say something.
I was just going to say, it's always annoying when you do something like that and think, I'm getting a real bargain, this will be great. And then you taste it and go, I totally got what I paid for.
Yeah.
It's a risk. It's a risk on Grey's Online because you think, that looks all right. So here's my hot tip. I only ever bid on things that have a suggested recommended retail price. Okay,
Yep,
so
agreed.
who's got a story for us today?
Yes. Well, glad you asked. I have. Talking of how you two are talking about your mothers and what you've got coming, this is a little mother-daughter story. Hopefully way worse than what you two have got coming from your mother. But
certainly hope so at this point.
anyway, yeah. Let's kick off, shall we? So this is the story of Dee Dee Blanchard.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Dee Dee was Claudine Peter, Pitre. I'm going to say Peter, as in, could be Piter, could be something else that I haven't even thought of, in Chack Bay, Louisiana, near the Gulf Coast in 1967. And she grew up with her family in nearby Golden Meadow. She was one of 5 children of Claude Anthony Peter Sr. and Emily Lois Gisclair. Relatives recalled that she had a habit of stealing from her family, which they speculated was a form of retaliation when things didn't go her way. At some point early in her adult life, she worked as a nurse's aide. The family expressed suspicion that in 1997, she might have killed her own mother by denying her food. Going quite nicely so far. When she was 24, she became pregnant by Rod Blanchard, then 17. So she was 24, he was 17. They named, scandal. They named their daughter Gypsy Rose because Claudine liked the name Gypsy and Rod was a fan of Guns N' Roses.
Nothing to do with Gypsy Rose Lee, the stripper, but okay.
What show is that from, Schmitty?
No.
Gypsy.
But good a reason as any, right?
Gypsy, right? I knew that was the reference, I just couldn't place it right.
They've got that really famous song, of which probably there are parallels, about everything's coming up roses for me. It's the mother carrying on like a pork chop. Yeah.
Right,
anyway,
got it.
I have a feeling there's a parallel there, but let's continue, please.
So shortly before Gypsy Rose's birth in July 1991, the couple separated when Rod realised he got married for the wrong reason.
Sorry to interrupt just for a second. Have you seen the latest trailers for Married at First Sight?
Yeah.
It's not a show I actually watch, but there's a trailer and the guy says, my new wife is an absolute psychopath. Was that the subtext of I got married for the wrong reasons?
Well, yes, I think you're pretty much on the money, yes. Unless marrying a psychopath is one of the right reasons. Look, it's probably unfair to call her a psychopath, but, you're on the right track. So he resisted Claudine's efforts to get him to return, and she took her newborn daughter to live with her family. According to Rod, who remained involved with his daughter at this point, by the time Gypsy was 3 months old, her mother was convinced that the infant had sleep apnea and began taking her to the hospital where repeated overnight stays with a sleep monitor and other tests found no sign of the condition. Claudine subsequently became convinced that Gypsy had a wide range of health issues, which she attributed to an unspecified chromosomal disorder. At some point, her mother claimed that Gypsy had muscular dystrophy and made her use a walker.
Munchausen.
Gypsy stated that when she was 7 or 8...
100%.
Yep, I was wondering how long it would take you to get to that.
Munchausen's by proxy, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Carla and I, in our collective psychology degrees, have just diagnosed.
Well, I must say that however credible those psychology degrees are, they worked in this instance, so well done.
I have to say, any person who was taken seriously, if a child was 3 months old saying they've got sleep apnea, would be like, how would you even know at that age? You wouldn't have a clue. That's not even a thing, I don't think. They would have told you to go away, I'd imagine.
So Gypsy stated that when she was 7 or 8, she was riding on her grandfather's motorcycle when they were involved in a minor accident. She suffered an abrasion to her knee. Her mother stated that doctors had given her a wheelchair, which she would need to use. We've all been there, right?
I think it's the opposite in our house. Like, get up, get going.
Yeah, exactly.
Most mums are like that.
Yeah. Is anything broken? Then stop crying and get on with it.
Yeah. I fell over the other day and I just cried and then got up. I didn't ask for a wheelchair. Yeah, it's all right.
Oh.
I fall over regularly now, by the way, and it's nothing to do with alcoholism. It's to do with my bad hip. My leg. Yeah, I don't have mobility in my legs, so it doesn't respond quickly enough, and so I overbalance and fall quite easily. Yeah. Don't worry, I'm going to get a new one.
Speaking of gifts from your mum.
Yeah, thanks, Mum. Cheers. Anyway.
Just bear in mind that she's not Claudine.
No, because to Carla's point, Mum's reaction to everything was much more like, take a shot of concrete and harden the fuck up. It certainly wasn't, oh, you poor darling thing.
Yeah.
Let's put you in a wheelchair.
Yeah. If I've got to get off this couch, there's going to be trouble.
If I have to put my wine down, there's going to be problems, yeah.
That's right, yeah. So Gypsy often went with her parents to Special Olympics events. In 2001, when Dee Dee claimed Gypsy was 8, she was actually 10. She was named the honorary queen of the Krewe, Krewe, no doubt murdered that, of Mid-City, a child-oriented parade held during Mardi Gras in New Orleans, or NOLA. Gypsy seems to have stopped going to school after 2nd grade, possibly even as early as kindergarten. Her mother homeschooled her after that, supposedly because her illnesses were so severe. Gypsy managed to learn to read on her own through the Harry Potter books. I find that remarkable. I must say, too, that my sources for this are predominantly Wikipedia, who were very helpful. I did Google Lad Bible and they had a little bit of info as well, but I stuck with Wikipedia.
Thank you. Due diligence.
Exactly right, yes. Yes, have they got anything outlandish to add?
Oh, the Smithsonian didn't have anything to say on it?
No Pulitzer Prize winning journalists right up on it.
I couldn't even understand the Smithsonian article, so I just left it. So I do think that's remarkable that she managed to learn to read on her own through the Harry Potter books. And that's what made me think of Lad Bible, because it's probably a little bit of fact-checking that needs to be done in that statement.
There's nothing wrong with it, was it? Well, I'm assuming there was nothing wrong with her mentally anyway, so...
Yeah,
well,
correct.
you might even argue if she learned to read herself, then she's actually a bit gifted. Not there's anything wrong with her, you know.
Well, she was in school to what grade was it? First, did you say, or second?
Possibly 2nd grade, possibly as early as kinder.
Okay.
Right,
because that does make a difference at that age.
Yeah, it does. It does. So while Gypsy's father, Rod, had remarried, Claudine moved in with her father and stepmother. The father and stepmother would later claim that Claudine, when preparing food for her stepmother, poisoned it with Roundup, leading to her own chronic illness during this period. What a love. During that time, she was arrested for several minor offences, including writing bad checks. When the Peters...
Yes. I think Carla's stuck on Roundup. You should have seen her face when you said Roundup.
No, I'm just a bit... Who was doing the Roundup?
Claudine, Dee Dee. No, Dee Dee was doing it on her stepmom.
Yes, but how would a child have access to Roundup?
No, Dee Dee's
the child is Gypsy, Dee Dee's the mum.
Yeah. But who is the mum poisoning at that point? The child?
Her stepmother.
Or the stepmother?
No.
Oh, so she wasn't just doing it. Wasn't just the right. Got it. So
she liked to kill everyone.
Why was she preparing food for the stepmother? Oh, it's so confusing. Right. So Dee Dee.
I'll just rephrase it for all our listeners who might be confused too, if you like. So, Gypsy's the daughter who taught herself to read. Dee Dee is the mum who is the one with Munchausen's by proxy, who also was suspected of killing her own mum by not feeding her, and is now using Roundup to put in her stepmother's food. So she's got 4.
Her stepmother's food.
Yep.
That's where I got confused. Sorry, I thought it was the little girl's Gypsy's stepmother. Yeah. Because that's why I was like, why would she be put... Right. To be clear, I've got that. Right. Her stepmother, not Gypsy's stepmother. Right. Got it.
Correct. Yes. So when the father and stepmother began to regularly confront her about her treatment of Gypsy and express suspicion about her role in her stepmother's health, she left with Gypsy for Slidell. Coincidentally, her stepmother's health returned to normal shortly after. So in Slidell, she and Gypsy lived in public housing. They paid their bills with Rod's child support payments and public assistance Claudine had been granted due to her daughter's supposed medical conditions. They spent most of their time visiting various specialists, mostly at Tulane Medical Center and the Children's Hospital of New Orleans, seeking treatment of the illnesses Claudine claimed Gypsy had, which she now said included hearing and vision problems. While a muscle biopsy found no sign of the muscular dystrophy Claudine insisted Gypsy had, she was successful in securing treatment for her daughter's other purported issues. After she told doctors Gypsy had seizures every few months, they prescribed anti-seizure medication. Several surgeries were performed on her during this time, and Claudine regularly took Gypsy to the emergency room for minor ailments. After Hurricane Katrina devastated the area in August 2005, Claudine and Gypsy left their ruined apartment for a shelter in Covington, set up for individuals with special needs. Claudine said Gypsy's medical records, including her birth certificate, had been destroyed in the flooding. A doctor there from the Ozarks, great show, suggested they relocate to her native Missouri, and the next month they were airlifted there. So they're
Is it
heading
pronounced
out
Missouri
of,
or is it Missouri?
What?
I don't know, but I know when I'm saying New Orleans, it's really Nolans.
New Orleans. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, so at first, Claudine and Gypsy lived in a rented home in Aurora in the southwestern area of the state. During their time there, Gypsy was honoured by the Oley Foundation, which advocates for the rights of feeding tube recipients, as its 2007 Child of the Year.
Jesus.
In 2008, Habitat for Humanity built them a small home with a wheelchair ramp and hot tub as part of a larger project on the north side of Springfield to the east. And they moved there.
Of course.
Missouri again.
Every single, unbelievable.
I had to
Rosalie
chuckle.
Springfield.
Yeah, Springfield.
Have we done Springfield, Missouri? I don't think we
Yeah,
have.
yeah. No, Victor Lustig was in Springfield, Missouri. Yeah.
Was he right?
Yeah.
Okay, well there you go. That was the last time.
Mm.
The story of a single mother with a severely disabled daughter forced to flee Katrina's devastation received considerable local media attention, and the community often pitched in to help the woman, who now went by Claudinia Blanchard, and whom they knew as Dee Dee. The outpouring of support included many charitable contributions. So when they were in Louisiana, the mother and daughter had at most availed themselves on occasional stays in Ronald McDonald houses during medical appointments. In Missouri, they received free flights to see doctors at Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City, free trips to Walt Disney World, and backstage passes to Miranda Lambert concerts, where she was frequently photographed with the singer, via the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Rod Blanchard also continued to make monthly child support payments of $1,200, as well as sending Gypsy gifts and occasionally talking to her on the phone. During one call on her 18th birthday, he recalls Dee Dee telling him not to mention her daughter's real age, since she thinks she's 14. So Rod and his second wife regularly hoped to get to Springfield and visit, but for a variety of reasons, Dee Dee would change plans. She told her neighbours in Springfield that Gypsy Rose's father was an abusive drug addict and alcoholic who had never come to terms with his daughter's health issues and never sent them any money. Many people who met Gypsy were charmed by her. Her 5-foot height, 150 centimetres, nearly toothless mouth, large glasses, and high childlike voice reinforced the perception that she had all the problems her mother said she did. She often wore wigs or hats to cover her baldness.
Can I ask, why is she toothless?
I wondered when you were going to ask that. And
Is that
if you could just
inappropriate medication? Okay, sorry, keep going.
if you could count to 190, you should have the answer by the time you hit 191.
Okay. 1.
She often wore wigs or hats to
3.
cover her baldness. Her mother regularly shaved Gypsy's head to mimic the hairless appearance of a chemotherapy patient, allegedly telling Gypsy that since her medication would eventually cause her hair to fall out, it was best to shave it in advance. When they left the house, Dee Dee often took an oxygen tank and feeding tube with them. Gypsy was fed the children's liquid nutrition supplement,
Of course she did.
Pediasure, well into her 20s.
Of course she did. You're can't starve her, and she's got to be able to breathe.
Yeah, correct. Dee Dee used physical abuse to control her daughter, always holding her daughter's hand in the presence of others. Whenever Gypsy said something that either suggested she was not genuinely sick or seemed above her purported mental capacities, Gypsy recalls that her mother would give a very tight squeeze to her hand. When the two were alone, Dee Dee would strike her with open hands or a coat hanger.
Oh, ridiculous.
What are you up to with your counting, Schmitty?
79. Are we close yet?
Oh, I thought you'd count faster than that.
Oh, no, I was doing it in seconds. Sorry. Do you want me to go faster?
Yeah.
1, 2, skip through 99, 191. Done.
Medical interventions continued. Dee Dee had some of Gypsy's saliva glands treated with Botox, then extracted altogether to control her drooling.
Why?
Oh!
Oh, God.
which Gypsy later claimed her mother had induced by using a topical anaesthetic to numb her gums before doctors' visits. The lack of salivary glands, coupled with side effects of the anti-seizure medication she was given, caused Gypsy's teeth to decay to the point that the majority of her front teeth were extracted and replaced by a bridge. Tubes were implanted in her ears to control her myriad of purported ear infections. How are we feeling about Dee Dee at the moment?
Oh, I'm not loving it.
Mother of the year.
A little bit, you know, what do they call them? A helicopter mum?
Yeah, she's very hands-on.
She should take a chill pill.
Bernardo Flasterstein, which is quite an interesting name, a paediatric neurologist who saw Gypsy in Springfield, became suspicious of her muscular dystrophy diagnosis. He ordered MRIs and blood tests which found no abnormalities. I don't see any reason why she doesn't walk, he told Dee Dee on a follow-up visit after seeing Gypsy stand and support her own weight. Flasterstein maybe, noted that Dee Dee was not a good historian. After contacting Gypsy's doctors in New Orleans, he learned that Gypsy's original muscle biopsy had come back negative, undermining Dee Dee's self-reported diagnosis of muscular dystrophy, as well as her claim that all Gypsy's records had been destroyed by flooding.
Perhaps Dee Dee is what we would like to coin as a truth stretcher. I noticed that this guy's called her a bad historian, but I think she might be a truth stretcher.
I think you're right.
Of the highest order.
I must say, too, of all of the things at this point I was going to say about Dee Dee, none of them would be that she's not a good historian.
That's a very polite way of saying she's a fucking liar, isn't it? You're not a great historian. I never claimed to be. Okay, you're a fucking liar.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a very passive-aggressive way of basically saying, yeah, this woman
is, isn't it?
Not telling the truth, yes.
I should actually learn to say things like that. You're not a good historian.
Best historian. I've never heard that used before, but yes. I think we'll truth stretcher.
Your challenge for the week ahead is to use say someone's not a good historian to their face and see how they respond. Hopefully,
I'll probably have to do it tonight with my kids at some point. Someone will have bullshitted about something.
Yeah.
I'll be like, have you unpacked your school? Have you done your homework? Yeah. It's like, oh, you're not a good historian. Easy. I could do it within I'll be able to do it within the next couple of hours. Multiple times.
That's your night taken care of. Yeah.
Might be a bit trickier for Schmitty.
Yeah. You've got the week, Schmitty.
Yeah, I'm just trying to... I don't know if I want to use not a good historian and then somehow work truth stretcher in.
I think you need to do a double whammy.
Well, because I swear to God, if we get enough people saying it, it'll get in the dictionary, and then all of your jibes at me the other day about making this up will all be gone. Anyway, sorry, Paul. We digress.
As you were.
Back to the story. He suspected the possibility of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Dee Dee contrived to gain access to Flasterstein's notes and subsequently stopped taking Gypsy to see him.
Can you say his name right, please? It's clearly Plasticine.
Plasticine, yes.
Yeah.
Why did I think that looked like an F? I should have my glasses on. Okay. Point taken. I will correct that. So, Plasticine did not follow up by reporting Dee Dee to social services.
Oh,
whoops. He's not a great historian.
He's good at bending the truth because he's made of plasticine. He said he had been told by other doctors to treat the pair with golden gloves and doubted the authorities would believe him anyway. In 2009, an anonymous caller told the police about Dee Dee's use of different names and birth dates for herself and her daughter and suggested Gypsy was in better health than claimed. Officers who performed the resulting wellness check accepted Dee Dee's explanation that she used the misinformation to make it harder for her abusive ex-husband to find her. And Gypsy, without talking to Rod, and reported that Gypsy seemed to genuinely be mentally handicapped. Defective detective strikes again.
Can I ask, Did she say when someone asks you have to pretend that you're handicapped or?
Yes, so she didn't like her talking as if she wasn't mentally handicapped. So I used to squeeze her hand quite tightly and then punish her later if she
Smack her with a coat hanger.
said anything.
Coat hanger.
Coat hanger. Yeah, if she said anything that made
So
her sound
Gypsy knew what
smarter
was
than she
going on
was.
to an extent. Did Gypsy know, or
I don't know if at what point she started to realise, but she did at some point. So, I think things like you've grazed your knee and now the doctor said you have to be in a wheelchair, you've got no teeth, and I'm going to give you medication that makes you drool, and now we're going to have to do something to stop that. Possibly all makes her feel like there is something wrong. But then
Correct,
at some point she starts to
I suspect there are
understand the
parts of
truth.
it that she would know that, well, there were bits that were done for him when she was a young age, so she wouldn't necessarily be able to identify how she arrived at not having any teeth necessarily. Things like that she wouldn't necessarily be able to put together, but things like, oh, I've got a graze, but you must stay in the wheelchair, things like that she probably was somewhat aware of, but within a cycle of that it would probably be lost on you.
I think it's dependent on your age, and I think it's dependent. Like if your teeth rotted and fell out, you'd start to think there's something wrong with you.
Totally,
If you
She
were
doesn't look like
taking,
something.
you may or may not know the answer to this, but if you're taking anti-seizure medication and you are not a person who suffers from epilepsy or seizures, can it actually give you seizures, the medication?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I could
Because
make
I think,
it up,
isn't
but I
it
don't
something
know.
like if you've got ADHD...
Did you ask Paul that because he has seizures or because
No.
he's got medical degree or just random?
Zoology, that's close enough. Isn't it biology
Because
degree?
he likes to...
No.
He likes to stretch the truth and could happily just make an answer up. Yeah. No,
I asked
would
him
be
in case it was
surprised.
somehow in the notes.
Okay. That was just good. I was just wondering if there was a backstory there that I wasn't aware of.
No, and also because things like ADHD medication, I think actually it's meant to calm kids with ADHD down, but if you take it and you don't have ADHD, it has the opposite effect and it revs you up.
I think you might be right with that.
Because
I don't know that firsthand, but it feels like I've heard that many times with lots of different medications, which is you got to try it because it could do the opposite. Yeah, depending on the situation.
And so I guess the point of my question was, we started with, did she know? Did she know that she was fine? If you were taking medication and you were having seizures and your mother said you have to take this because you have seizures,
no,
you wouldn't necessarily think if the medication is giving it to you. You'd be thinking, oh, I better take it because I'm having these seizures. It's a real thing. That was really where I was coming from.
I also think that as a kid, your default position is that your mother is looking after you, and the realization that she's actually not would be probably quite a long and difficult conclusion to reach.
Yeah, I'd hope so.
We're now going to talk about the growing independence of Gypsy. Dee Dee seems to have at least once forged a copy of her daughter's birth certificate, moving her birth date to 1995 to bolster claims that she was still a teenager. Gypsy said in a later interview that for 15 years she was not sure of her real age. She sometimes also claimed the original had been destroyed during the post-Katrina flooding. Dee Dee kept another copy with Gypsy's actual birth date. Her daughter recalls seeing it during one of the hospital visits and becoming confused. Dee Dee told her it was a misprint. Since 2001, Gypsy had attended science fiction and fantasy conventions, sometimes in costume, since she could blend in even in a wheelchair. At an event in 2011, she made what may have been an escape attempt that ended when her mother found her in a hotel room with a man she had met online. Again, Dee Dee produced the paperwork giving Gypsy's false, younger birth date and threatened to inform the police. Gypsy recalls that afterwards, Dee Dee smashed her computer with a hammer and threatened to do the same to her fingers if she ever tried to escape again. She also kept Gypsy leashed and handcuffed to her bed for 2 weeks. It's all becoming a little bit like Kathy Bates now, isn't it?
That's dreadful.
You know, from Misery.
Oh, yes. I do know, yes. She needs a good nut punch, this woman.
She needs a good petrol rag shoved down her throat while saying, "Eat this, you sick, twisted fuck." I think that was a line from
not
Misery
from your own repertoire, I hope.
Well, it is part of my own repertoire, but I haven't actually done it to anyone.
Oh, gosh. Oh, you're lucky. Be careful.
Despite the petrol rag.
I'm a little fearful at times.
Yeah, husky throat, but...
Dee Dee later told Gypsy that she had filed paperwork with the police claiming that Gypsy was mentally incompetent, leading Gypsy to believe that if she attempted to go to the police for help, they would not believe her.
She's probably right.
Yeah.
Sometime around 2012, Gypsy, who continued to use the internet after her mother had gone to bed to avoid her tightened supervision, made contact online with Nicholas Godejohn, a man around her age from Big Bend, Wisconsin. She said they met on a Christian singles group. Godejohn had some issues of his own, a criminal record for indecent exposure, and a history of mental illness, sometimes reported as dissociative identity disorder. He also had Asperger's syndrome. In 2014, Gypsy confided to Alia Woodmansey, a 23-year-old neighbour who was unaware that Gypsy was close to her own age and considered herself a big sister, that Gypsy and Godejohn had discussed eloping and had even chosen names for potential children. Gypsy, who had 5 separate Facebook accounts, I don't know if one of them was Kai Fortune, but I'm intrigued to know. And Godejohn flirted online, their exchanges sometimes using BDSM elements, which Gypsy has since claimed was more what he was interested in. Woodmansey tried to talk her out of it, still thinking Gypsy was too young and possibly being taken advantage of by an online sexual predator. She considered Gypsy's plans just fantasies and dreams, and nothing like this would ever really take place. Despite Dee Dee's efforts to prevent her from using the internet, which went as far as destroying her daughter's phone and laptop, Gypsy maintained contact with Godejohn, who saved printouts of her posts until 2014. The next year, Gypsy arranged and paid for Godejohn to meet her mother in Springfield. Her plan was for him to just bump into her while she and Dee Dee were at a movie theatre, both of them in costume, and apparently strike up a relationship that way. As soon as they did meet in person for the first time, Godejohn says, Gypsy led him to the bathroom where the two had sex. I'm not sure that plan worked.
I just don't understand sex in toilets. People poo there. It's gross. Oh, so germy. And strangers. Ugh, ugh.
People
Anyway, sorry.
podcast there.
Yeah, sometimes they podcast there too.
The two continued their internet interactions and began developing their plan to kill Dee Dee.
So did Nicholas, was he from Missouri, or did you say before he was from somewhere else and he came there to meet her?
He's from Wisconsin.
Oh,
Big
okay, so
Bend
he's
in
travelled.
Wisconsin.
That's right. He's travelled to Missouri to meet up with Gypsy.
To meet the mum,
And
but then instead of doing that, they had sex in the toilet.
Okay. And so that there seemed to be a more sort of organic meeting in terms of when they were going to present it to the mother. They didn't say that, they weren't planning to say, oh, we met online. It was just like, oh, we bumped into each other, we met each other. And
Correct. We're both in
we
fancy
like
dress at
each
the
other.
movie, and we
Yeah,
had a
oh,
chat,
look
and
what we've got in
that's why
common.
we're friends. Yeah.
Go for it, Gypsy, though. Going for a little bit of a bang in the toilet, straight up.
Gross.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Good for her.
Sorry, she's got no teeth.
Godejohn returned to Springfield in June 2015, arriving while Gypsy and her mother were away at a doctor's appointment. After they'd returned home and Dee Dee had gone to sleep, he went to the Blanchard house. Gypsy allowed him in and allegedly gave him duct tape, gloves, and a knife, with the understanding that he would use it to murder Dee Dee. Gypsy hid in the bathroom.
Jeepers.
I know.
It's quite a leap from having sex in a toilet.
Yes. And also by meeting in fancy dress.
Yeah, but they'd been planning it for ages, hadn't they?
I wasn't expecting we were going to get there this quickly. We're getting there very quickly.
Yeah, no, we're there. Are you ready? Brace yourself.
Hold on. Right, here we go.
Buckle up.
Okay, go for it. Let's do it.
This is where it all happens. So Gypsy hid in the bathroom and covered her ears so that she would not have to hear her mother screaming. Godejohn then stabbed Dee Dee 17 times in her back while she was asleep.
I bet she didn't stay asleep for long. Fuck me, that'd wake you up.
I'm tipping he didn't need the duct tape either.
Absolutely.
So what do you reckon that you do after that?
Have sex.
Absolutely. That seems to be what most people like to do.
You two are all over it. The two had sex in Gypsy's room and took $4,000 in cash that Dee Dee had been keeping in the house. What the fuck?
Well, if you think it's all right to have sex in a freaking public toilet with people that you don't know shit,
You have no
then
boundaries?
it's probably you have no boundaries. That's right. Yes.
I feel like more if you think
Sorry.
it's okay to murder someone, then you have no boundaries.
Oh,
I feel sorry for these people who have to murder someone to have sex. Gosh.
as far as I'm concerned, it's the same thing.
Oh.
Having sex in a public
And
toilet
mur-
is
and
akin to murdering
murder.
someone. That's right. It's
Okay.
disgusting. It's all wrong.
Thank
Moving
you
right
for
along.
sharing that with us.
Let's hope you're not on a jury where that comes up.
Correct. Yeah. So the $4,000 in cash they took was mostly from her ex-husband's child support checks. They fled to a motel outside Springfield where they stayed for a few days whilst planning their next move. During that time, they were seen on security cameras at several stores. Gypsy said at that point she believed the two had managed to get away with their crime.
Early days, Gypsy love. Early days.
They mailed the murder weapon back to Go to John's home in Wisconsin to avoid being caught with it. Then took a bus there. Several witnesses saw the pair on their way. Yeah,
Well, they turned up to the post office. I need to get this knife sent back to Wisconsin. Would you put that in a box or would you put that in a parcel pack? Or is that parcel size?
Can I bubble wrap this or will
Wrap
it all
that-
pop in transit?
So they didn't try and get rid of it. They will send it to our house. Not
Yeah.
somewhere else random, to their house. Right, okay.
Well, so they did
His
that so
house.
they wouldn't get caught with it on the bus, right? But I feel like there's better ways to deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, I understand they're getting rid of it, but they're not really getting rid of it. They're going to meet up with it again. Or
Yeah,
the
chuck
plan.
it
Correct.
down the drain, maybe.
Yeah.
Chuck it in. A lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chuck
We're
it
all-
anywhere. Don't mail it to yourself. Don't have a record. Don't get a receipt for that mailing. I mean,
Gypsy, I
We're
haven't
all-
questioned your mental health until this point, love.
well, she's not
Now
an
I'm starting to believe
experienced
Dee
killer.
Dee.
Schmidt, you had Schmitty at the sex in the toilet. She was already very
Caroline,
suspicious.
of course you have to get the peel-off sticker so you know if it's received or not.
Exactly.
I want it registered post.
Oh, what, exactly.
That's right.
I need to sign.
Would you
for
like
it.
insurance? Oh, yes, please. It's a knife and it's not new,
And I-
used.
It's a bone handle knife, so I'm going to keep it.
Yeah. No commercial
And
value.
I would like tracking number. Jeepers. All right, sorry, go on.
No, good chat. Several witnesses saw the pair on their way to the Greyhound station and noted that Gypsy wore a blonde wig and walked unassisted. So,
They noted her, so I don't think the blonde wig was a great disguise. There's Gypsy. She just happens to be wearing a blonde wig. Oh, look, she's
It's-
walking quite well today, isn't she?
yeah, and it's funny that these people, like if I saw someone at a Greyhound bus stop in a blonde wig, every chance it could be someone I know, I still wouldn't point them out. But people actually went, yeah, that's her. She just had a blonde wig on. Impressive. A little while down the track, Blanchard's friends suspected something was not right. When phone calls went unanswered, several of them went to the house. While they knew that the two often left on medical trips unannounced, they saw that Dee Dee's Nissan Cube, modified to hold Gypsy's wheelchair, was still in the driveway, making that explanation unlikely.
Can I say one thing which is really not very nice? But I
Do
don't ever
it.
want to own a car that's called a cube.
I know,
Box on
right?
fucking wheels.
Have you seen
Oh, get me the
those?
cube.
Oh,
No, I haven't seen them.
disgusting.
But I.
They're awful.
Oh, I
they
can
are
imagine
exactly
actually.
what you would think. Yeah. Oh,
You have
Cube.
to Google one. Google it, and you'll see exactly.
Box,
they look
was it a
like
Nissan
box.
Cube? Was it?
yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen a
Nissan Cube.
kangaroo. Is it a kangaroo? Because they're also...
Oh, worse.
They're-
Kangaroos
Oh, I
are
know
a
what
little
that
bit.
is. Yeah.
They're a little bit shapely.
Nissan
And they look like a
Cube.
Pope-mobile almost.
Yeah, they're just boxes.
Oh, actually, I might be looking.
How's the aerodynamics?
I don't even know what to
And a
say.
snort.
Up the top, in even Google Images, it goes interior modified rocket bunny. What's a rocket bunny? Is that like a Nissan Cube?
It's a vibrator.
Oh, a rocket bunny?
Oh, no, rampant rabbit.
No, that is a sexy car, isn't it? The Nissan Cube. Why did they? This, you know what? It's what people ask. is Nissan Cube a good car? Why did they stop making the Nissan Cube? I was like, I don't know, have a look at it.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah. Do you really need to ask that
Oh.
question?
That is brilliant. That's the kind of thing you could punish your child. Like, I'll buy your car, when you get your license. Ta-da!
It's got to look like this.
It's a Nissan, it's a top of the range Nissan Cube with all the bits and pieces. Oh my God, I wonder if there's a Nissan Cube appreciation club we can join.
Unlikely.
Cubesters. Cubester. Woo! Anyway, sorry, Clarky.
Right. So no one answered the door, so they called 911. When the police arrived, they had to wait for a search warrant to be issued before they could enter. But they allowed one of the neighbours present to climb through a window, where he saw that inside the house was largely undisturbed and that all of Gypsy's wheelchairs were still present. That's how I knew she wasn't in a wheelchair.
All of them? How many
Right.
wheelchairs do you
All
need?
of them. I don't know what the going number is nowadays. My sister used to have a couple of pairs of hearing aids. Maybe you have one for quick shopping and one
Indoor,
for
outdoors.
off-road.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Off-roading. Yeah.
A wheelchair is not a wheelchair, is not a wheelchair.
No, it is true, actually. Jeremy's mother has a very large style wheelchair that she sleeps in, so yeah, as well. So there's different
There you
types.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. So any of
so
the
when the-
suite
Oh,
of
I think I want one of
wheelchairs-
those. I'd like a large wheelchair I could sleep in that people just push me around in. That sounds good.
That'd stop you falling over with that bung hip.
Exactly.
Get one where you're like practically standing up and they just roll you around in it.
When the warrant was issued, police entered the house and soon found Dee Dee's body. A GoFundMe account was set up to pay for her funeral expenses.
Oh, for God's sake.
And possibly Gypsy's, because they assume
thought she
that
was dead too.
foul plays happened to Gypsy as well.
That woman must have been loaded.
Must have been loaded.
Well, sorry. She's getting $1,200 a month. She was using up all these charities. She didn't work, did she?
Free
Dee Dee?
house.
But still,
Yeah, she
your free house.
She had a
Free
sweet,
house.
she had
worked
a
on
sweet
making sure
ride.
her daughter
Holiday.
was sick.
Beautiful car.
Far out.
Round upping your stepmother's
Yeah.
food isn't easy to do.
Everyone thought she had it all. That
Didn't
that
we
woman, she's got it all.
almost have it all?
Oh, pimp my ride with a
Couldn't afford her
Musical
own
interlude.
funeral. Piss off.
beep beep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So all who knew the Blanchards feared the worst. Even if Gypsy had not been harmed, they believed she would be helpless without her wheelchair, medications and support equipment like the oxygen tanks and feeding tubes. So that's hence the GoFundMe, right?
Not at all. She's like on a root fest, going cross country.
What?
Woohoo! Sowing a wild oats.
On a root
She's never been better.
She's
She's
well,
catching
she's out
those
there living.
Greyhound buses around
Exactly.
Knees up, Martha Brown.
Yeah.
town. So remember her friend Woodmansey? She was among those gathered at the Blanchards' lawn and told police what she knew about Gypsy and her secret online boyfriend. She showed them the printouts she had saved. They've all got printouts. It's really weird.
I
Which
don't know.
included
Why
his
are they saving
name.
them all? It's weird. It is weird.
Why are they even printing them out? It's odd.
Well, let me just go to my file and print out emails
Yes.
and references
Yes.
My work inbox has 23,000 emails.
That's a lot of
Could you
filing for you to do,
imagine?
but good print them out.
That's about 6 months worth of emails. 23,000. Could you imagine if I printed every one of them out? How ridiculous.
It is nuts. It's
You'd have to have a very good filing system for when something happened.
I
Hang on,
wouldn't
I
even
know
know
it's just
how
a
to
reference.
file
Hang
them
on,
to retrieve
yes,
them
yes.
later. So she showed them the printouts she had saved, which included his name. Based on that information, police asked Facebook to trace the IP address from which his posts to Dee Dee's account had been made.
No, Facebook said, no, we're not going to help you. We take no responsibility for racial slurs or dodgy
Elections.
Thank you. US elections. Facebook, yeah, it's just a place for people to do stuff. We don't interfere. I bet they didn't.
You can live stream your massacres if you want. No, yeah. So that was
don't.
Hey, Clarky.
yeah.
Correct, yeah.
You said then that when they were checking the IP address that he sent stuff on Facebook to Dee Dee, did you mean Gypsy Rose? He wasn't messaging the mum, was he?
No. So they had posts to Dee Dee's account. So yes.
Hack Dee Dee's account.
No, who had posted to Dee
No,
Dee's
based
account?
on the information, police asked Facebook to trace the IP address from which the posts to Dee Dee's account had been made. So he's posted on Dee Dee's account.
I don't understand that
It
bit,
turned
sorry.
out to be, well, maybe he was, I don't know what he was posting. I didn't research that, but it's probably a good
Like before the murder, or
I know.
I actually do
I'm-
know the answer
I think
to
I'm
that.
misunderstanding.
No. All right, he wrote "The bitch is dead." That bitch is dead.
Not
on
ding
her
dong, the bitch
Facebook.
is
Where did you
dead.
write this? Oh,
Ding dong, the bitch is dead. The
It
wicked
came up
bitch
on
is dead.
Dee Dee
Ding dong, the
Blanchard,
bitch
which
is dead.
was her Facebook. So I think they actually hacked into
Hacked
her
it?
Facebook
Oh,
and
Oh,
wrote "That
right.
bitch is dead." Yeah,
oh.
I
and
thought he wrote on her
there was
wall
another
or
one.
something.
So she posted it like herself, but it was actually him doing it, right? Okay.
Well, one of
Yep.
them did, but
I
the
think-
main thing was "That bitch is dead." Oh no, here it is.
bit of
Here
hard
it is.
truth.
Here it is. This
Oh.
is the bit on her Facebook. They didn't put it on her wall. They got into her Facebook and he wrote "That bitch is dead." And then people said, "What's going on? What did your Facebook get hacked? I've never heard you talk like that." "I bet she did," said someone else. That was a bit rude. "Sounds like y'all watching a movie." And then this is the upsetting one. "I fucking slashed that fat pig and raped her sweet innocent daughter. Her scream was so fucking loud. LOL.
Oh, see, that makes more
Jeepers.
sense because it's
You
like
can
a
find this
cover, as
stuff.
it were.
It
so
was.
that
It was
so
to
then
make
you
it out.
think that-
Yeah, it's still up
Ah.
there, and it was intended, yes, to throw everyone off the scent.
What do you mean it's still up there? Is that where you just saw that?
No. There people have taken photos of it, and so if you look up Dee Dee
Oh,
Blanchard
right, darling.
Facebook
Yes,
posts,
yes.
you can see these images.
I mean, I'm intrigued by the use of LOL after that, as if somehow there's something funny
To laugh about.
in any of that.
I think that was the point. They were trying to make out that some rando had broken into the house, raped,
Yes.
killed Dee Dee, and raped the daughter, and I've done all, and
Yeah.
then hacked the Facebook account and said, "Oh, I've done
Yeah.
this stuff." So it was fully intended to put everyone off the scent of the
Offset.
Yeah.
Yep, got it right. Now I totally understand it, but at first I was a bit unsure as to what had been messaged, but that is very clear.
Anyway, they raided Goda John's Big Bend home. Both he and Gypsy surrendered and were taken into custody on charges of murder and felony armed criminal action. Is that like felony armed Facebook hacking or something more severe? I always get vague on what they're actually trying to say with that.
Or is it about taking the money? Yeah, what is it? Yeah. I know what your point. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
What are they
Could
saying?
It could be it could be the stabbing and not the murder. Could be, who knows. The news that Gypsy was safe was greeted with relief back in Springfield, where she and Goda John were soon extradited and held on $1 million bond. But in announcing the news, Greene County Sheriff Jim Arnott warned, "Things are not always what they appear." The media in Springfield soon reported the truth of the Blanchards' lives, that Gypsy had never been sick and had always been able to walk, but her mother had made her pretend otherwise, using physical abuse to control her. Arnott urged people not to donate any money to the family until investigators learned the extent of the fraud.
Good job.
Someone's going to have to sell the cube to get some money.
I know,
And the
right?
pink house.
All right, well, let's talk about the trials, shall we?
Yes.
Let's.
Okay. After the disclosure of how Dee Dee had treated Gypsy all those years, sympathy for her as the victim of a violent murder rapidly shifted to her daughter as a long-term victim of child abuse. While the charge of first-degree murder can carry the death penalty under Missouri law or life without parole, County Prosecutor Dan Patterson soon announced he would not seek it for either Gypsy or Goda John, calling the case extraordinary and unusual. Snaps for him. After her attorney obtained her medical records from Louisiana, he secured a plea bargain to second-degree murder for Gypsy. So undernourished was Gypsy that during the year she was in the county jail, he told BuzzFeed, Patterson told BuzzFeed, she gained 14 pounds or 6.4 kilograms, in contrast to most of his clients who lose weight in that situation.
Yeah.
In July 2015, she accepted the plea bargain agreement and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Carla, just coming back to our conversation at the start of this podcast where I was saying that I'd lost a bit of weight and you were saying you couldn't. Ever considered a year in prison?
Does wonders.
It probably probably do me wonders, honestly. I bet you can't get to a Nutella jar there of a night when you're just sitting watching TV.
No, just a minor crime. I'm not sure.
What do you hear about? Oh, I'm here as part of the Fat Fighters
Fat fighters.
module.
Dust. High fat, low fat. Anyone?
Dust.
No, dust.
Yeah.
She'll have salad.
Cake. Well, cake, some people would say it's high fat, but it's so delicious, we'll put it down as low fat.
Marjorie.
Marjorie Daw.
All right.
Marjorie Daw.
That's right. I couldn't remember her name.
Yeah. Goda John still faced the more severe charge because prosecutors contended that he initiated the murder plot, and both he and Gypsy agreed that he was the one who actually killed Dee Dee. I'd just like to, at this point, give you a little bit of a trial by one exam. It's only one question. It's not really an exam. But when a woman gets her boyfriend to kill someone for her, what do we call that?
Magic pussy.
That's what we call it.
I think it was a malnourished one, and even it's still magic.
Oh, I know, right?
That just goes to show.
Even
a malnourished one
can still do magic.
Can weave its magic.
Yes. Yes.
Never underestimate.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It can't lift heavy things because it's malnourished, but it can still perform magic tricks.
Oh god. I need to see some photos of
Are you going to Google them?
on the journey from top.
Oh,
Can I have a look?
Yeah.
Do you have any that I can have a look
I've got one here that I can show you. I normally.
Sorry, let me just close my window with the Nissan Cube down.
Yeah.
Can you see?
Oh, her mother was. Oh, her mother looks like an American version of Hyacinth.
Yeah, she does
You know
a
that
bit.
show,
Yeah,
Keeping
yeah,
Up Appearances?
yeah.
Do you think she does, Schmitty?
A little bit, yeah. She was a fatty.
Oh no, that was now that I've opened that up, that was probably not very complimentary. Oh my god, if that girl's pulling a bit, she must have a massive magic puss because that just oh my god. Not massive, but as in impressive.
Sorry, what are you looking at?
Oh my word. I'm looking at a picture where mum's in check and the girl in pink. Can anyone see that one?
Yes,
with
good
a with
name.
a what
Gypsy
with
Rose
a
has got
blonde wig or
got
something.
a
And she's
beanie
got
on.
no
Yeah.
teeth.
She,
my.
that's when she's little.
She must.
But see how she's got no teeth?
I'd like to see a picture of him. Yes, I noticed that.
So passing
Is
her
there
off
a
as
picture
15 or
of,
something?
Not her.
No.
There he is.
Have you found a photo of her yet when she's in jail, when she looks like a normal person?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I
Quite
have.
the transformation, yeah.
Absolutely.
Which just goes to the whole point
That's
about how much
shocking.
abuse she was
Yeah.
privy to, or subjected to, at the hands of her mother.
So Godejean still faced the more severe charge because prosecutors contended that he initiated the murder plot, and both he and Gypsy agreed that he was the one who actually killed Dee Dee. Her plea bargain agreement did not require her to testify against him. In January 2017, his trial was postponed when prosecutors requested a second psychiatric exam. His lawyers contend that he was an intelligence quotient of 82, also known as an IQ of 82, so not high, and is on the autism spectrum, suggesting that he has diminished capacity. He had initially waived his right to a trial by jury but changed his mind in June of that year. In December 2017, the judge set Godejean's trial for November 2018. In their opening statement, prosecutors alleged that Godejean had deliberated for over a year before the crime, whilst his lawyers pointed to his autism and said that Gypsy had formulated the crime and their love-struck client had just done as she had asked. The next day, prosecutors showed jurors text messages, sometimes sexually explicit, that Gypsy and Godejean shared in the week before the murder, often using various personas as well as the knife which he had used to commit the murder. In some of the texts, he asked her for details about Dee Dee's room and sleeping habits. These were supplemented by video of his interview with police after his arrest, where he admitted to having killed her. Gypsy testified on the trial's third day. She said that whilst she had indeed suggested to Godejean that he kill Dee Dee to end her mother's abuse, she had also considered getting pregnant by him in the hope that once she was carrying Godejean's child, Dee Dee would have to accept him. Along with the knife that she eventually gave to Godejean, she stole baby clothes from Walmart during a shopping trip so she could go ahead with either plan. However, she said Godejean never told her what he thought about the pregnancy plan. After 4 days, the case was sent to the jury. Jurors had the option of finding Godejean not guilty or guilty of one of the three murder charges. involuntary manslaughter, second-degree murder, or first-degree murder. After approximately 2 hours of deliberation, they returned with a verdict, and Godejohn was found guilty of first-degree murder and armed criminal action. In February 2019, he was sentenced to life in prison for the murder conviction, the only possible option since prosecutors had declined to seek the death penalty. Godejohn asked Judge David Jones for leniency on the armed criminal action charge, which carries a minimum sentence of only 3 years, saying that he had fallen blindly in love with Gypsy. He received a sentence of 25 years on that charge, which is concurrent with the life sentence. So instead of 3 years, which he could have got with leniency, he got 25 years.
It doesn't matter. It's concurrent to life. He's got life.
It's kind of it doesn't matter in the actual time he'll do. It matters in the conviction and the severity the court has, or the jury has put upon him.
They've thrown the book at this
Correct.
guy.
Yeah. Who has an IQ of 82 and is on the spectrum.
Oh, no, when we get to sentencing. Keep going. Oh, no, they didn't. Anyway.
Girlfriend. Jones also denied a motion by Godejohn's lawyer, Dwayne Perry, for a new trial. Perry argued that the jury should not have been allowed to hear that Godejohn had considered raping Dee Dee on the night of the murder. And that could come back to that Facebook post, Schmitty. I'm not sure. He also argued that the state psychologist should not have been allowed to testify, while Godejohn's psychiatrist should have, to establish that he had diminished capacity. So it sounds like the state psychologist could and the defences couldn't.
It was unfair.
Yeah,
wasn't balanced, yeah.
The judge, in denying the motion, conceded that an appeals court could find the latter point significant and consider it a reversible error. So the Blanchards' neighbours were shocked to learn that Gypsy's illnesses were fabricated. Her friend Aaliyah Woodmansey, who we spoke about earlier, whose information about Gypsy's relationship with Godejohn led police to the couple the day after Dee Dee's body was discovered, said she cried out of disbelief upon hearing that Gypsy had never been sick or disabled. Her mother recalled how everyone had accepted Dee Dee's claims without asking for proof and wondered if the mother and daughter had been secretly laughing at their neighbour's naivety. I feel like the daughter perhaps not.
No.
Kim Blanchard, who is no relation, had called the deputy sheriffs to the house the night before, said, "What have I been believing? How could I have been so stupid?" Over 60 people attended a candlelit vigil for Dee Dee in downtown Springfield the night after the body was discovered. In a news conference, Sheriff Arnott said of the case, "Springfield is a giving community. We surround people with love and finances that we believe that needs it. However, a lot of times we are deceived, and I think this is now so true. In this case at hand, only one of the charities that helped the Blanchards spoke after the revelations. A spokesman for Habitat for Humanity, whose volunteers had built the Blanchards' house along with others on the street, said, "We are just really deeply saddened by the whole situation." In terms of the family, Dee Dee's family in Louisiana, who had confronted her about her treatment of Gypsy years before, did not regret her death. Her father, stepmother, and the nephew who first shared details of Gypsy's actual health when she was first confined to a wheelchair, all later said that Dee Dee deserved her fate and Gypsy had been given punishment as much as she needed to be. None of them would pay for her funeral or even pick up her ashes. Her father and stepmother ultimately flushed them down the toilet.
Gee, that's
Oh,
really
that is
sad.
sad.
That's
Terribly
really sad.
Yeah. I know she's done wrong, but Jesus.
It shows how
Christ.
ashamed they were of her, doesn't it?
She's still your daughter.
Yeah, but she's also tried to poison the stepmom like it's...
Yeah, I know. I heard the story, but it's still
Oh, no,
sad.
I get it's sad. I just...
Who's supposed to be able to forgive, remember? To err is human, to forgive divine. Anyway, moving on.
Rod Blanchard, Gypsy's father, is less critical. I see Dee Dee's problem was she started a web of lies and there was no escaping after. It was like a tornado got started. He was happy the first time that he saw a video of Gypsy walking under her own power.
It's just so sad, because he believed all of it, didn't he? The father. He believed she was sick. He believed he had given the money. He kept being put off to not visit her.
Yeah, it
It's
doesn't
just
say whether he
awful.
believed it or not, but I think he was remote enough to not be able to question it. And so, then maybe just took it at face value without having the opportunity to investigate.
Didn't see it firsthand, for sure.
You might not go out of your way or suspect. Oh, I don't know. I mean, it seems so extreme that muscular dystrophy and a whole bunch of unrelated stuff. Like, there comes a point where you think, this all sounds a bit too much.
But he left
doesn't it?
before she was born, remember?
Oh.
Do you know what I mean?
He was
Like-
17 when...
Yeah, but he stayed in her life.
Well...
And he kept paying for
No,
it.
what they're-
And he was aware
They're saying
of
that
her.
he didn't really. What he did is he kept paying child support, but when he tried to catch up with her with his new wife, she
Okay.
kept putting it off. So
Putting it off.
I
He
don't
wasn't
think he ever
actively
saw
involved in
her.
her
I
life,
think
right.
he
Okay.
supported her from afar.
You had no opportunity.
Well, I don't know if
okay.
I buy that entirely. I'm sure that if the checks can get through at some point, you can sort of turn up and demand to see somebody.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? You're not going to just go, oh, well, it didn't work out for 20 odd years.
But it is.
At some
It
point.
is.
I mean, I know it's difficult.
In 2010, I would say people didn't even have
El
checks.
suspicious,
then.
Carla.
You just do a transfer.
I just think you're very suspicious. You're very suspicious, Carla. I'm not buying that.
I am. I just sort of think, I know, but so I'm not saying that he's at fault. I'm just saying that, miraculously, because no one ever
He
pays
didn't
a
try
maintenance
hard
check.
enough?
But, no, he tried hard enough to pay the maintenance checks. And that's usually the part that people fall down on. And if he continued to pay maintenance throughout, he was clearly had an interest in it. It wasn't as if he totally went, oh, well, that's it, it's too hard, I'm not interested.
No, but remember,
if he continued to pay the money.
He left before she was born, so there's no real connection there. But so at some point he's decided, he wants to visit when he's got his new wife, and she's kept saying, "Oh, you can't because of this medical issue or that medical issue." I don't think that he had a super strong bond to her. It's not like he spent the first 5 years with her.
No, I know, but I'm just saying over the period of time, the fact that most men. Well, that sounds awful, but I think most people in that situation would possibly not have done what was required of them in terms of maintenance payments. And the fact that he at least was doing that, and if he did want to see her at any point, let's say he got rebuked many times, if he truly did want to see her at one point, he would have made the effort, or he would have turned up and
You say that, but she's
Dee Dee say, "Oh, you can't."
She's tricked a lot of people. I'm willing to go with the fact that he's been a decent bloke.
Oh, absolutely.
He's done what he should. And she is
I don't
just
think he's not a
incredibly
decent bloke.
manipulative.
There's no doubt about that. Yeah.
I think we should throw
Agreed.
the book at her, not at him.
Oh yeah, I don't want to throw the book at him. I'm just being a bit skeptical. That's all. Forgive me.
So Gypsy Rose said, "I feel like I'm more free in prison than with living with my mum, because now I'm allowed to just live like a normal woman." That's
I don't doubt it.
That's the extent of the suffering that her mum put her under.
If I could hazard a guess, and people were aware of her situation and circumstances in jail, I think she'd probably be quite well looked after.
Well, she
You
put
know, I
on
don't think they're usually
6
after-
kilograms. That's all relative, right?
Well, I mean, even by the other inmates. You know how there seems to be that,
Yes.
there's a pecking order in terms of what crimes you've committed and who you are.
Like top
I
dog
think-
and shit. Yeah.
Correct. I think people would be like, you poor thing, your mum did that to you, you killed her, fair enough. We're going to,
Yeah.
I bet you somebody looked after her.
I've
looked
seen
out for her.
Wentworth. I know how it works.
Be like, prisoner, mate. Yeah, exactly. Wentworth.
Cell block H.
So Gypsy, now serving her sentence in Missouri's Chillicothe Correctional Center, did not talk to media until after she'd made her plea. When she did, she told BuzzFeed reporter Michelle Dean that she'd been able to research Munchausen syndrome by proxy on prison computers, and her mother had every symptom. "I think she would have been the perfect mum for someone that actually was sick," she said. So she always hoped that doctors would see through the ruse, and she was frustrated that none besides Plasticine did, although Plasticine didn't report it. When Dean asked her what made her want to escape her situation, Gypsy recalled the 2011 incident at the science fiction convention which made her wonder why she was not allowed to have friends like others of her age. While she said that Godejohn took the idle discussions of murder into reality, she accepts that she committed a crime and has to live with the consequences. Nonetheless, she has said that she feels she is freer in prison than she was before, and that she hopes to help other abuse victims. Victims of Munchausen by proxy often avoid doctors and hospitals in their later lives because of lingering trust issues, according to Mark Feldman. And according to her family, Dean and Carr, Gypsy also exhibits at times the same sociopathic manipulative behaviours as her mother, who was for much of her life her only role model. She's already psychologically really compromised, and she's going to need as much family underpinning and support as she can. Feldman told Vulture after viewing Carr's documentary, because there is a documentary in which he appears, he also pointed out that post-traumatic stress disorder is likely to be an issue in her continuing development. I hope they find someone wherever she chooses to settle who is willing to provide supportive psychotherapy. The other bit that I just wanted to point out before we move on to crimes and sentences was that so Feldman said that it was unprecedented in the 24 years he had been researching the disorder for an abused child to have killed the abusive parent as Gypsy did. So whilst you hear, we've probably spoken about Munchausen's by proxy a bit, and we've probably, we've spoken of it here, we've heard of it at other places, but it's very unlikely that the child would kill the parent as a result of it.
It's very rare. Very
That,
rare.
my friends, is all I have to present to you, and I would like you now to consider your crimes and your sentences.
My question to you is,
yes,
you were saying that there's sort of no record, or the gentleman who was chatting was saying that he knew of no one who had actually murdered the parent who had Munchausen them.
Yes.
And I wondered if that's because most of them don't get to the ripe old age where they're able to do that, or the parents have been caught.
Probably.
I mean, she had a long run, old Dee Dee.
Yeah.
That's a really decent run at getting away with that, because quite often, certainly in the telly movies I've seen, people click a little bit earlier.
Yes.
So doesn't it feel like telemovie territory?
It
Munchausen.
really
And I also,
does.
and the other reference that I was thinking of when I was correct. So the show was called The Politician. It's a series, and that what is his name? Benjamin. He's brilliant.
Netanyahu.
Ben Platt. He plays the lead.
Exactly what I was
No,
going to say.
Ben Platt. And the premise is that it's a young guy who's he wants to be the president of the United States. He's at school. It's like a high school sort of drama. Anyway, he's running for, head of student body, student president. And he chooses a girl called Infinity Jackson, which is the character's name. And she's a cancer patient and a victim of Munchausen by proxy disorder. And through the series, they work out that she's not really that sick. And then they have the problem, which is, oh God, we've chosen her for, this sort of the vote of, because he's a super elite, rich, well-educated person, and she's from the wrong side of the tracks, plus she's so sick and a cancer victim. When they find out it's actually Munchausen, it doesn't work for their narrative from a political point of view.
Yeah, and that's interesting, right? Because
go on.
Well, that happened in this case, right? So there are plenty of charities that supported both Dee Dee and Gypsy,
Yep.
and the neighbours obviously did, the community obviously did, and all of them were were shown to probably have done that for the wrong reasons. Yeah. The other thing I did Google because through the story it intrigued me. Like, what's the motivation for someone to exhibit Munchausen's by proxy? Like, why would you actually have a kid and then do that? And
attention on themselves.
Well, it was talking about a couple of things. One was anxiety and when the world is getting out of control. So it gives you a little bit of control that perhaps you otherwise wouldn't have. And then the other is just how much the community will rally around you to support you in your daily struggles. Whether they're real or not doesn't really matter. It's just about the fact that you can get so much attention and support from the people around you. So it's fascinating. I am 100% not a fan of Munchausen's by proxy, but it's a real thing, and it's funny that it's that attention that people crave and the support that they crave even if they don't need it, and they
I
manufacture
understand it once they're in the cycle of it. I understand how once you've started something, you've got to maintain it, and then you'd probably quite like, as you say, the attention and the financial support. But where's the stepping off point? When do you go, you know what? I think I might start putting poison or salt or whatever is my kids' food. That's the psychological trigger that I'm interested by.
I'm going to hurt someone
why did
to
you
get
start
that
this?
attention.
Because I understand once it starts snowboarding, you can see that they've got to find other angles, other ways. You've got to stay newsworthy. You've got to remain relevant. You've got to remain at the forefront of the charity line to get the trips, to get the car, to get the cube, to get whatever it is. You've got to keep a level of people, the cube. You've got to keep a level of interest and that empathy that you need to sort of get from people. But that all comes after the fact that you've started this, and that's what I would find difficult to get my head around, is from a psychological point of view.
Because she wasn't just after a babysitter.
What set them off on that? No. And they don't go into it. I wouldn't have thought. Well, maybe they do.
So there was a bit around
tickets to Disneyland.
Potential abuse as a child. So there's no known cause for it. So a lot of it was speculative. But, potentially if you've been treated badly, and we saw that Gypsy is exhibiting some of the tendencies that her mum had, but that's because of what she's known. Maybe Dee Dee's mum wasn't very good to her, although, she did, there was suspicion that she killed her by not feeding her. So I don't know. It's so complicated, but I just don't understand it. And I tried to, and I read stuff and just went, wow, I still don't get it. I mean, I think we've all had friends who like a bit of attention, and some of them might play up on things to try to get attention in different ways, but hurting someone else to get that attention, to me, is crazy. Hurting yourself to get that is crazy. Hurting anyone to get that is crazy.
It's a mental illness. And so I've been mulling over this whole sentencing and the response thing, and Dee Dee had a mental illness, because a person who's not suffering from a mental illness does not torture their child in the way that she tortured poor old Gypsy Rose. So whether I'm not saying that she didn't do terrible things, but I am saying that she was a victim of some form of mental illness herself. And I've never had children. We started this whole thing about me becoming like Benjamin Button, becoming a bad human being who drinks more and has good old times.
I don't think you're becoming a bad human being.
Versus people who have children who have to, maintain. I know, because you don't have kids either, so we're on the same plane. But those people who have kids that have to take this level of responsibility. And Carla, I mean, you've got 3 kids and a husband. There must have been a point in time in your life where you felt your identity disappeared while you managed children, while you became this other. So wasn't Carla?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wasn't Swanee back in the day? It was, So I think there's a connection between when you are fully responsible for another person and your identity dissipates a little bit over that period of time, because you become a mother or you become a carer or whatever it is. And I say carer because with Dee Dee's mother situation as well, Dee Dee craved this coming back to her attention, being about her, and so did these things to get the attention on herself, because she'd lost that through whether it was her mother was sick or old or she was caring for her. And even then I think it became a bit of a pattern. Like
she killed her.
Well, clearly it did. The family thinks she might have. We don't know that she did. We also don't know that she gave the stepmother Roundup, but chances are it was very coincidental that the stepmother got better when she left. But all of those behaviours were about driving attention to herself.
What a coincidence.
Yeah. And poor Gypsy Rose, was just a victim of, she was just a mechanism for her to drive attention to herself, which is very, very sad.
Terrible shame.
It's
shame.
Very sad that her mental illness bled out so far that she had this awful effect on other people around her.
I also feel for Godejohn, who, had a low IQ, was on the
Oh,
spectrum,
massively.
and was clearly drawn in to something that possibly, as her family state, they feel like she deserves it. And he's got 25 years plus 25 years, albeit, concurrent, which is a bullshit sentence. We all know that I think that. But he's done what he's done out of love for someone who has been treated terribly.
He murdered someone.
There's
complicated,
there's
isn't it?
no doubt that she has.
I hear what you're saying, but he
affected
murdered
him.
someone.
So Gypsy has affected him to make him do what he's done, and it's an interesting thing. There seems to be a lot of instances where the male kills for the female, and I don't really understand why that is, but yeah, it'd be interesting to explore that more as we go, because
Who did this story? Was in Canada with the little Satan, the daughter who was that you, Schmitty? No?
No, Clarky, the wolf and the poet, duck poetry. Same thing. The male
goose.
does
Yes.
quack.
The dirty work.
The male does
Quack.
the dirty
quack,
work.
quack, waddle, waddle, quack, quack.
Do you think the sentencing would have been different
Dark
if she had
poetry.
have killed the mother?
Do you know what I think? I think if Gypsy Rose had have killed her mother, it would, and just because I've heard of other situations, in abuse situations, if she had have killed her mother, perhaps not stabbed her 17 times in the back, but if she had have killed her mother, I think it would have been a totally different case.
Boom.
Because of the way people
Exactly
would
what I
perceive
was
it.
thinking.
Yeah, good.
If they looked at it as a cut and dry, the mother was being abusive to the extent that she was, because it's when it becomes apparent, it's incredibly apparent how it's been they're in her entire life. She retaliates, she has enough, she reacts, she kills her mother. I think that would have been viewed totally differently, but it's because this other man becomes involved and he's seen as potentially predatory in the sense that there's event online and that whole other piece that goes with that he's then the one who's viewed as being sinister. Whereas if it had have been just her and her mother, I think it would have seen that sort of, not quite a crime of passion, because I don't mean like that, but where it's just, I can't cope anymore. I've killed my mum because she's put me through all this. And I think everyone would have gone, oh.
All
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
I think it would have been a very different
Definitely.
Much
Definitely.
That's
less
just what I
less
think.
premeditated.
Based on, I don't have a direct comparison, and I guess the comparison I'm making are probably more with domestic violence situations where I've seen a number of cases where, usually the woman cracks, kills her husband, and then you find out she's been abused terribly for, 20, 30, 40 years. And there's somewhat of a more favourable outcome for her in terms of her sentencing than these pair really copped it, I thought, particularly him.
How often would you two ask a man to kill someone for you? Have you found something funny?
Oh, still working up
Can
to
I
it.
just share something? Sorry. Well, it's funny to me. I was going to challenge Carla's point about women not getting off, but, getting a lesser sentence, because I think actually women who kill abusive partners are often not treated as victims. So I have this opinion that based on lots of other cases where women are actually sentenced quite harshly for it. Anyway, so I Googled average sentencing for women who kill abusive partners. And the first thing that came up was a box that says help is available. Speak with someone today.
They're on to
1-800
you.
RESPECT and a phone number, which is part of White Ribbon Australia, which is great. But also, I'm just doing it from the purposes of
Yeah, no, they're on to you.
podcast.
Now that you've Googled it,
Can you read out the number for us all?
You've
Schmitty,
been red
please?
flagged.
And then lawyers seek justice for women jailed for killing abusive, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, are women punished more harshly for killing an intimate partner? And that was that's what I was looking for.
No, but I think the real question is, are women who kill abusive partners or mothers or whatever treated more harshly than male friends that they get to kill for them?
I don't know, but absolutely, when men kill the woman they're abusing, they get out sooner.
Which is
disgusting,
Women
right?
do serve longer
Outrageous.
prison sentences after killing their abusers. So that was my understanding.
But that's not the case here, right? This is not about the abuser killing. This is about the
Wait, this is a slightly different
abusee
case.
killing
I get your
versus
point.
the abuser getting someone
Exactly.
else to
This
kill.
is different.
So
Yeah.
let's assume the the abuser deserves to die. If the person does it themselves,
Yes.
they probably get a much lesser sentence than if they
get
someone else to do it. And I'm kind of intrigued as to what motivates somebody to kill on behalf of somebody else. And maybe that gets us back to the magic pussy discussion.
Sure.
I'm not.
In this case, it is.
It doesn't seem to happen that that women kill for men very often, and that could well be because men are often the abusers and not women. I'm not.
This could be first pussy.
Well,
This case.
possibly is. Yeah,
Is. And that's just fucking amazing.
Normal
for her
pussy.
Normal pussy.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Let's move on from the pussies. I'm not sure the pussies are getting us anywhere.
What do you mean?
Could
Paul and I love them.
Mine gets me quite far.
couldn't eat a whole one.
Oh,
Anyway.
Too far, Carla.
oh, no.
Quite likes a battered sav,
No
though.
problem.
Anyway,
I'm just
moving
telling
right
you, I
along.
couldn't even.
Very
eat.
funny. I trust you.
Bag of dicks.
I believe.
It's Christmas.
A salted
Christmas,
bag
a
of
whole
dicks.
bag
That's,
of salted
yeah,
dicks.
that's a different story.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Got any chocolate coated ones?
Salted.
Oh, stop.
Oh, scorched. I think we call those, don't we?
Scorched.
Scorched bag of dicks. Oh, bag of scorched dicks. Scorched dicks.
You're terrible, Muriel.
You know it's Christmas time when your mum buys a bag of scorched dicks and puts them in the cupboard. And puts them in the cupboard ready for Christmas with the Christmas cupboard.
Where's that from?
My mum
She
used to do
get
that,
a
like,
bag of
when
scorched
she
dicks.
doesn't anymore, obviously, but growing up,
What do you mean?
no, in reference to the scorched almonds, did your mum say that when they'd start to compile what would be the Christmas food
Yeah, I
that you
know
weren't
what you
allowed
mean.
to touch? It was a bit special. And so, a
Yes.
big jar of scorched almonds.
Right.
So it's like when the bag of scorched dicks turns up, it's like, Christmas is coming!
Yes. And when it turns,
Christmas must...
I was just going to say, when it's March and the bag of dicks turns up, it's still Christmas, even though it's March.
You do check the use-by dates and go, these are good for another couple of months. Yeah, we're good to go.
And
Light it up.
it's only a best before anyway.
Yeah. Oh, nothing says Christmas like a bag of scorched dicks.
All the way. Yes.
Anyway, shall we move on to sentencing? Have we explored enough?
Yes.
Dr. Plasticine is in my sights for a start because he didn't report the issue in the first place. And he said, I didn't think I'd be believed. And yet he was, from when you talked about his background, he was a serious doctor. Like, why wouldn't he have been believed? What a lot of bullshit. It was just lazy. So he's in my sights for a start.
Gun?
He's in my gun sights, yeah. I don't want to... I really think that Dee Dee had a mental health problem, and I'm not saying that she didn't abuse her daughter, because she did. We've seen the pictures. We understand that poor old Gypsy Rose was a terrible victim. I still don't think that justifies murdering her. I think leaving her, because at some point that child became an adult, even though she didn't know because of her birth certificate issues, but she became an adult. She manipulated that poor guy, and I agree with you that he got a really rough ride. He did do the murder, but he was highly manipulated, and so he should have had more leniency. So Dr. Plasticine probably should be struck off. He shouldn't be allowed to practice anymore because he didn't do the right thing.
I think as the only doctor
He has a duty
who
of care
actually
for people.
recognised it in a group
And
of
did nothing about
peers
it.
who are saying
Yeah.
you need to treat
Brilliant.
these
Yeah.
people with golden gloves, it's interesting.
Yeah.
And it's
It is.
I'm not going to go harsh on him.
But people who have Munchausen's by proxy shop around on their doctors, and they rely on the fact that there is not a great...
Darling, we all do that.
Only when we want to get
Yeah.
a lot of codeine. Yes, that's right. We were all shopping for codeine.
Or,
Not even that.
or
though.
go to
We all do that.
Cambodia where you
Yeah,
can get it
yeah.
over the counter.
Point is,
I
she
just feel
moved
like
doctors
the
around.
only doctor who had the ability to find something out was also pressured by his peers.
And failed.
What's that?
And failed.
No, he didn't fail. He
failed. He
called
failed.
it out.
No, he
but
did. He failed to call. No, he didn't. He didn't call it out. He didn't report it. He had a suspicion and he did nothing about it. Okay, go. I'm sorry. I'm the prosecution for plasticine.
He called
You're
it out
the
to her and
defense.
she left. All of his peers had said you need to treat her with golden gloves. Or treat them with gold. So everyone was fooled apart from him. And do you?
Are they similar to kid gloves?
Yes,
Right.
I like kid
I
gloves.
assume so.
Yes.
And maybe cotton wool. I don't know.
A bit heavier.
But I just think
And
that
they make a lot of noise if you bang them on a
he-
table. But yeah, go on.
He suspected, and he was probably the only one who did suspect. I don't think that makes him guilty. I think that so science is a lot about peer reviews, right? So if all your peers are saying no, then if you're the one who has to stand up and say, "Hang on a minute," that's difficult.
I disagree, and this is my sentencing. So I shall finish my sentence, and he's going to be struck off because he didn't follow the duty of care. He didn't say anything. He said, "Oh, no one's going to believe me, so whatever." No, I'm not buying it. I think that is a retrospective excuse for not doing the right thing. That's my view, and I'm
Excellent.
entitled to it.
No,
Thanks very much.
You are 100%. Excellent. Well done. Would you sentence the other people who didn't pick up on what
I
he
haven't
did
finished.
to
Yeah.
anything, or are you okay with him?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
No, I
Mom.
haven't finished.
Go.
Game on, Mole. There's an issue with the entire system. And I know that a while back there was a bit of a carry on about having the government say you have a government health record, right? And you can opt into this, but if you have a government health record, we can track where you are and what you're doing. And the value of that is that people can have visibility of this sort of behavior. There were so many early warnings. Muscular dystrophy test, negative, not an issue. Fine, I'm going to find another doctor. I'll go to another doctor. The fact that there's no reporting, there's no kind of centralized database, that for me is a mega failing. That girl went through years and years and years and years of abuse because of her sick mother, because there was no system that said, hang on, we're going to flag this up, that there's an issue here. So I don't know all these other people. You've only mentioned Dr. Plasticine. So he's in my sights to start with. But that whole system is an issue. And that whole system should be looked at and reviewed. Because if it weren't for that system, this woman wouldn't have got away with it. This whole bullshit about Katrina getting rid of our records and all the rest of it. Because I don't know the people that I'm going to sentence. I'm not going to sentence them all, but they're all shit. So I'm just going to call them all shit. Gypsy Rose herself, she decided the best way to deal with this is to kill my mother and find some poor patsy to do it. So I do think that her sentence was extremely light. I get that she had a terrible time, but I think her sentence was light. And so I don't know, we've done this before, so it's not a precedent. I don't know how to sentence her. I'm just going to call out that I just don't think that she was held responsible enough for her actions, and because she could have just left, or John could have just taken her. She could have said, pick me up, we're going. We get on the Cube, we're getting in the Nissan Cube, and we're driving away, and we're taking the money, and we're going to go to my father's house and tell my father all these terrible things that had happened and be protected. She chose not to do that. She said, go to John, please kill my mother. Go to John is such a victim in this story. He's had the long arm of the law thrown at him, and he's not necessarily got the wherewithal to make the appropriate decisions. I feel like he's a very, very sad character in this. Maybe he gets to...
Agreed.
He gets to just escape the whole thing and never go to the right... how'd they meet again? Online, but also they went to, like,
Cosplay.
Wasn't Comic-Con.
Oh, they're
but,
going
you
to
know,
the movies
just-
and just did it in the
Comic-Con.
bathroom anyway.
Cosplay. No, don't get us started on the bathroom, please.
Oh, don't do that.
Never let them meet. Let him go his merry way, never coming across this person who influences in this way. I just think the health system should have picked this up earlier. The health system are the problem. And therefore, plasticine struck off, and the rest of them, I've got my eye on you.
Okay, nice work.
Love your work, Mitch.
Swanee, what do you think after all of that?
I think with the medical fraternity, it is disappointing that it was not picked up by, I mean, she must have seen so many people before plasticine, I mean, and after. I mean, just, it must be an absolute register of different medical people all across the board in different states from different backgrounds, because, you know, she wasn't like she had one thing, because mum had managed to give her a couple of different things. So I think in terms of how I would punish those people, to your point, Clarky, they do really care what the medical fraternity thinks. So I'm not suggesting they get struck off, but they certainly need to have been publicly ridiculed and caught and associated with this case, so that people in the future would see that as a, you know, I don't want to be the person that didn't stand up and say something. So that if they didn't pick up anything, well, they didn't pick up anything that might be about their, you know, medical background. But I mean, it was so many people that she would have come across. I can't believe that only one would have ever noticed that. But let's just say for all of them, they are publicly named and associated with that case, because I think that would be damaging to their ego and, you know, their brand, as it were, as a practitioner. So that's where I'd sit with the beginning of the story. In terms of punishing Gypsy Rose, I'm a bit sort of in two minds about that. I think that, you know, she's had such a horrendous upbringing that I can't speak to what sort of mindset she would have been in. I don't think murdering anyone is correct. And I think, you know, as Schmitty said, you know, why didn't she just hightail it out of there? Why did she get to the point where she thought that was the only way out? And I don't have a sentence for her, because I think, you know, she's already lived the horror of that, and I actually just hope that she goes on and has a reasonable life afterwards. She deserves that. And poor chappie, go to John. I do feel for him as well. I think he was certainly the wrong person at the wrong place at the wrong time, and just sort of falling into that scenario where, you know, if he was a vulnerable person and he could see that he could help Gypsy Rose, and I can see how he would have been led down that path, and willingly so. And I'm surprised, you know, there's so many different cases that we look at week in and week out where people are coming forward and saying, oh, you know, I wasn't sane, I wasn't in sound mind. Surely this guy is clearly not, you know, of sound mind, and yet he was still
It's coerced.
the trial was suggestive, but the trial that it was against, you know, or the case that was set against him didn't ever really seem to take that into account.
It's terribly
like,
unfair.
oh, you know,
I agree.
I think that, you know, he, in terms of his sentence, I still think he deserved a sentence, you're wrong, you know, and jail time, etc. But I think he would have been better off being rehabilitated and had a lesser sentence than just being, you know, thrown in jail and throw away the key. I don't see that that's going to be the upside for anybody. It's a really crappy outcome for everybody, really. It's just not doesn't you feel good, is it? So yeah, that's sort of where I stand on everything. No trips to Trial by Wine World.
And also
Just
no
not that
Disneyland.
fulfilling.
No one goes to Disneyland
No.
ever again.
No,
Oh, fuck no.
maybe a nut punch for one or two of the medical fraternity, but that's about it. You know, that's where I'm at.
Okay.
Interesting.
Great story though, Clarky. Very interesting.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
What's your view, Clarky?
Oh, wow.
I feel like my views are very different. So,
Not surprising.
really? Because you and I are often on the same wavelength of this stuff. But I think medicine and human, looking after people is incredibly difficult, because there are so many ways that people will react differently to similar diseases, similar treatments, whatever that might be. So it's not black and white when you come to looking after people from a general practitioner's point of view. And so I find it, I'm empathetic towards the doctors who had to try to make sense of this. and that then leads me to Dee Dee just being, you know, a manipulative person, and like when we spoke last week about old mate Catch Us If You Can, who was very good at, he was a con man and he was very good at tricking the system and getting away with things. I think Dee Dee's in that same vein. So we could blame the doctors who were duped by her, but I would prefer it if we didn't blame the system in this context, but we blamed the con woman as it be. And I think that
Yeah.
if we think back to Mary Joseph, who was the one who drowned in the Lafayette pool because it wasn't well looked after,
Yes.
that's a very good example to me of when the system lets people down. I don't think this is that same example. I think that, you know, for doctors, there's a whole lot of liability that comes up if they don't treat certain illnesses, and it's often not black and white as to whether someone has an illness or not. So I'm empathetic towards the doctors. I am 100% not empathetic towards Dee Dee, and I don't know her circumstances to understand whether she was treated poorly as a child, although I do read that she potentially killed her mum by not feeding her and tried to kill her stepmother. So Dee Dee, for me, is where the blame sits with this. But also, like you both, I am very uncomfortable with Godejean getting a sentence that is 2.5 times that of Dee Dee. And I think that if you're a victim and you get somebody else in to do the dirty work for you, you should share the sentence. Now, whether that's a lenient sentence or a harsh sentence, I guess I can't comment on. It would depend on the specifics, but I just think that in this instance, they were both clear that Dee Dee was going to be murdered, and therefore for Gypsy to get a lesser sentence than Godejean, I'm not cool with that, and I don't want that. So maybe to the jury, I'd just like to have them go through some compassionate classes to understand that, you know, just because you're talking to somebody who has an IQ of 82 and is on the spectrum, it doesn't mean that they're a vicious murderer who took advantage of somebody in a horrific situation so that they could murder someone just for shits and giggles, because it feels like that's a little bit of what's come across here. And I'm not really cool with the police officers who turned up and just took Dee Dee's, you know, information at face value around her daughter being mentally challenged, and like, fuck me. I don't know. There's a lot in this that I don't think is systematic, and I don't want to call out the system for it. I think that Dee Dee was incredibly manipulative and obviously very good at getting away with what she did. Did she deserve to be stabbed in the back 17 times? Maybe not, but fuck, I'd like to see her punished in trial by one world if we could. So if she didn't actually die, she'd get some fucking serious punishment from me, because
she'd be a prime candidate to spend some time there, I reckon.
I think there's a real thing about the victim, and Schmitty, you were kind of alluding to this, where, you know, she could have just left, but often in those intense relationships where there's an abuser and an abusee, that the way that you and I would choose is not clear, and so perhaps that was the only way out for her. And we see that sometimes where domestic violence victims have to, or feel like they have to, kill their partner because there's no getting away from that. And there's stories where child abuse victims have to kill their abuser because that's the only way that they can get away from it.
No, I know what you mean, because there are plenty of women, I'm going to call it out, women who are victims of domestic abuse who don't leave, and everyone says, why didn't you just leave? It's not as simple as that. I do understand that.
Not at all.
I guess part of my inner rage also is around all of those charities that gave them trips to Disney.
Are you
and
going to blame?
Silk
Are you going to
House
blame
and
the
did all those things.
do-gooders?
No, it was innocently though.
There were other people. Yeah, I know it was innocent, but there were other people who were more deserving.
Habitat one, Ronald McDonald House.
But
yeah.
There were
No,
other
but-
people who were more deserving, and didn't get
Exactly.
anything, or weren't the
But again, blame them-
That had to
2007
miss out.
sad child of the year. Like, who didn't get the support?
Blame
Because
the
Dee
manipulator,
Dee
not
was
the
really-
manipulated.
Exactly, because Dee Dee was
Agreed.
really good at telling that story.
But that's where my heart sits, right?
I am
She's
blaming
the
Dee
problem,
Dee.
and we can.
But I don't think she deserved to be stabbed 17 times. If the story played out differently, to your point, I would stick her back on the Coles whipping machine, and she would get a lot of whipping machine action from one of her early episodes, because she's a very, very naughty person, and she needed a gag so she can't
She's not
say
the
anything because
Messiah.
she's clearly very good at lying. And bloody Dee Dee was just a freaking idiot who should have been on the Coles machine much earlier. In fact, probably, way back in her life.
She wasn't a freaking idiot. She was a criminal. She was a
Yeah, all right.
terrible criminal.
Anyway,
Yeah. I'm okay with the fact that she was murdered, and I know that's
Terrible.
harsh,
it's
but
hilarious because
would-
last week, when
I'm
I was
okay with the
happy
fact that-
for John Wayne Gacy to get put down like the dog that he was, you were like, "Oh, I don't believe in that," and now it's like, it's fine. I'm happy for her to be murdered. You and your
no. What I'm no.
your lines
But no,
are so hard for me to follow.
But you didn't let me finish, right? So I think that I'm actually okay with her being murdered. I would never sentence her to that, and therefore we would have to go to a trial by wine sentence where there's an equivalent punishment. But honestly, in the grand scheme of things,
It's
she
understandable.
has completely fucked her own daughter over, and I don't know. Her daughter's in jail, right? Because she had her teeth fucking fall out and she was in a wheelchair and all these horrible, horrible things.
Saliva glands.
I don't know what a good punishment is for Dee Dee, but I'm not angry that she was murdered. I wouldn't sentence her to that, but I'm not angry that she was murdered.
I don't know. It's a tough one. I just think Godejohn should know. I think all three of us are able to say Godejohn is out of jail as far as we're concerned. He's living in
100%.
He's living in. So we won't sentence anyone. How about we do this? How about we do a reversal of fortune? We're not going to sentence anyone, but we're going to send Godejohn to the best version of life that he could have.
In Trial by Wine World.
In Trial by Wine World.
Yeah, maybe there should
Yeah.
maybe there should be a magic pussy world in Trial by Wine World, which doesn't lead to death. So if you've been magic pussied and you've killed someone because of that, maybe no, here's what a real magic pussy looks like, and forget all of that. Just go and enjoy that for now.
We will gift you that for as long as you want to enjoy that pussy.
Exactly.
Yep.
But if you fuckers ever sentence me to that, that's I'll come back and get you. I'd rather go to Magic Bag of Dicks World than Magic Pussy World.
Well, we'll take that on
That's a
notice.
great
but-
sentence.
Duly noted.
Yep. All right, done. We can agree on
It's going to
this.
be an amazing
And my pussy's
place.
too pussylicious for you, babe. Can we have that as the
Are you
theme
okay
song?
with Magic Pussyville as somewhere we send people who think we're hard done by, who are heterosexual, obviously, or Magic Bag of Dicksville
Cockworld.
for those who are
but also Magic Pussy World could be a good sentence for homosexual people who have committed a crime that we want to punish. So it shouldn't just be a reward; it could also be a punishment.
Because they're not going to go anywhere near that.
Eat that for the rest of eternity, you dirty homosexual.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right. So, Carla, can you just submit the planning permission for our latest extension of the Trial by Wine World.
I didn't hear you there, Dave. What was it? Put into the architects for planning permission, did you say?
I said, could you please start the paperwork for the extension of Trial by Wine World?
Yeah. Okay. No worries.
So I don't know if you've seen Lord of the Rings. At the start of Lord of the Rings, there is a map of Middle Earth. And I think we start to need to make a map of Trial by Wine World because
we do.
I am worried. I'm starting to lose track.
of it.
I've only got Peasant World and I can't remember the rest.
In point of fact, I would like our fans, the 25 people who listen to us regularly, any one of you who wants to submit some fan art, map it out for us because we would enjoy that very much. By the way, I would like to say a massive thank you to everyone who does listen to us because we have almost hit 1,000 downloads, which is awesome. I'm not sure we ever expected that. So thank you very much. Thank you to the people who've listened to us in Romania, Russia. Where are they, Clarky? Yeah, lots of Australians. US. Thank you very much. US,
Ireland, UK. Yeah, lots of Californians. Pennsylvania during the week. Lots of crazy people who must
beautiful people
who either listen to us and just go, "What the fuck are those weird accents?" Let alone what they're talking about. Or
and you know it's called Missouri. By the way, it's Missouri, not Missouri. Anyway,
it's Nolans, not New Orleans. Nobody wants to hear New Orleans.
We agree, but we don't know because we live in Australia, as the bogans here like to call it. But we do very much appreciate your patronage. You guys are amazing. And if any of you would like to, like Middle Earth, map out Trial by Wine World, we would be very, very happy to see your interpretations of it. All right. Well, Clarky, again, absolute cracker. Thank you very much for a great story.
You're welcome, ladies. I hope you enjoyed it.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Great episode. And, as they say in the classics, I miss you already.
Oh. See you later. Arrivederci.
I miss you more. Ciao.
Ciao,
Bella.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website, www.trialbywine.com, to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from pixabay.com.